It all started innocently enough when my husband left for his business trip last month, packing his suitcase with crisp shirts and ties while our golden retriever, Max, watched with those big, soulful eyes that always seem to understand more than we give him credit for. Max has always been the family glue, the one who greets us at the door with boundless energy, tail wagging like a metronome set to joy, but something shifted the moment the front door clicked shut behind my husband, leaving just me and Max in the quiet house that suddenly felt too big for two. At first, I thought it was just separation anxiety, the way dogs sometimes act out when their routine is disrupted, but as the evening wore on, Max began this peculiar ritual that I couldn't quite put my finger on, starting with him pacing the living room, sniffing at the corners where my husband's shoes usually sat, letting out these soft whines that tugged at my heartstrings. I tried distracting him with his favorite chew toy, a squeaky rubber bone that usually sends him into a frenzy of play, but he ignored it completely, instead opting to jump onto the couch where my husband always lounges after work, burrowing his nose into the cushions as if searching for a lost scent. By bedtime, things escalated. Max refused to sleep in his usual bed in the corner of our room, insisting instead on curling up right on my husband's side of the bed, his warm body pressing against mine in a way that was both comforting and a little overwhelming, his paws twitching in his sleep as if dreaming of adventures with his missing pack leader. I laughed it off that first night, snapping a quick photo to send to my husband with a caption like "Max misses you already," but as the days stretched on, this behavior intensified, turning into something I couldn't ignore or control. No matter how many treats I offered or walks I took him on to tire him out, he'd follow me everywhere, from the kitchen where I'd prepare dinner alone, to the bathroom where I'd try to have a moment of peace, his eyes locked on me with an intensity that made me wonder if he thought I was the one who sent his dad away. And then came this from the title: a thing Max does that I can't stop him from doing, which is howling at the moon, or rather at the empty space where my husband should be, starting around midnight when the house is silent, his voice echoing through the halls in a mournful melody that pulls at every emotional string I have left. It's not aggressive, not destructive, just this pure, heartfelt expression of longing that mirrors my own quiet loneliness, and every time I try to hush him, wrapping my arms around his furry neck, he just leans into me, continuing his song as if to say, "I miss him too, Mom." The neighbors have started complaining about the noise, leaving polite notes on the door about disturbing the peace, but how do you explain to them that it's not mischief, it's grief? I've tried everything from white noise machines blasting ocean sounds to cover his howls, to consulting online forums where other pet owners share stories of similar behaviors, suggesting it's a sign of deep bonding or perhaps even a protective instinct kicking in when one family member is absent. But nothing works. Max persists, and in a way, I've started to find solace in it, like we're in this together, waiting for the day the door opens and my husband walks back in, suitcase in hand, to restore our little world. Still, the exhaustion is real. Sleepless nights punctuated by those howls, days filled with extra attention to keep him calm, and the constant reminder that our family isn't whole without all three of us. As the trip extended due to unexpected meetings, I found myself documenting it all on my phone, little videos of Max's antics that I thought might make for a funny story later, but they turned into something more, a diary of our shared vulnerability. Friends suggested getting a dog sitter or even another pet for company, but Max is loyal to a fault, and I know deep down that no substitute would do. So here we are, me and my furry companion, navigating this temporary void with as much grace as we can muster. Is this becoming our nightly ritual that I can't stop? Not because I don't try, but because in stopping him, I'd be denying the love that binds us all. Character count, approximately 4,000. The second week without my husband brought new layers to Max's behavior, evolving from simple howls to more interactive displays that had me both laughing and tearing up in equal measure, as if he was trying to fill the role left vacant by his dad in ways only a dog could imagine. Mornings used to be a rush of coffee brewing and quick kisses goodbye, but now they start with Max bounding onto the bed at dawn, his cold nose nudging my face until I wake, then leading me downstairs with purposeful strides, as though he's taken charge of the household schedule. He'd sit by the coffee maker, tilting his head expectantly, waiting for me to pour a cup, and if I delayed, he'd let out a series of impatient barks that sounded remarkably like scolding, making me wonder if he'd picked up on my husband's gentle reminders to not skip breakfast. Once fed, Max would insist on our daily walk, but not just any walk. He'd pull me towards the park where we all used to go as a family, stopping at the bench where my husband would throw the frisbee, looking back at me with eyes that seemed to ask, "Where is he? Why isn't he here?" I'd throw the toy myself, but Max would retrieve it half-heartedly, dropping it at my feet before wandering off to sniff the air, perhaps catching phantom scents of past outings. Back home, the realness intensified. Max began collecting my husband's belongings: a stray sock from the laundry basket, an old t-shirt left on the chair, piling them in the center of the living room like a makeshift nest, guarding them with his body as if they were treasures that might vanish too. I couldn't stop him. Every time I tried to put things away, he'd whine and gently tug at my sleeve, pulling me down to join him in the pile, where we'd sit together, me stroking his fur while he rested his head on the fabrics that still held a faint trace of cologne. It was heartbreaking and heartwarming all at once, this canine way of coping that forced me to confront my own feelings of absence. Evenings brought more challenges. Max refused his dinner unless I sat on the floor with him, sharing the space where my husband used to sneak him treats under the table, his tail thumping softly as I hand-fed him kibble, turning meals into bonding sessions that stretched longer than planned. And when night fell, the howls returned, but now accompanied by pacing, circling the house as if on patrol, checking doors and windows with a vigilance that made me feel safer, yet sadder, knowing he was protecting what was left of our pack. I've scoured books on dog psychology, learning about attachment theory in animals, how they form bonds as strong as human ones, and it all makes sense. Max isn't just a pet, he's family, and this trip has disrupted his world as much as mine. Attempts to redirect his energy with new toys or puzzles fall flat. He solves them quickly but returns to his collection, adding more items each day, like a slipper or a hat, building a shrine to the missing. Friends call to check in, offering advice like playing recordings of my husband's voice, which I tried, only for Max to perk up excitedly then deflate when no one appeared, his disappointment mirroring mine. The video diary grows, capturing these moments for posterity, perhaps to show my husband upon return how much he's missed, not just by me, but by our four-legged son. As the days blur, I find myself adapting, incorporating Max's rituals into my routine, like leaving the t-shirt out for him to cuddle, accepting that I can't stop this because it's his way of holding on, and in a strange way, it's helping me hold on too, reminding me that love persists even in absence. Character count, approximately 4,000. By the third segment of this ongoing saga, Max's antics had taken on a life of their own, transforming our home into a stage for his one-dog show of devotion and mischief that I was powerless to curtain call on, no matter how many commands I issued or distractions I deployed. It began with him discovering the remote control, nosing it off the coffee table and onto the floor, then barking at the TV until I turned it onto the channel where my husband and I used to watch evening news, as if expecting his face to appear on screen with updates from his trip. When that failed, he'd switch to pawing at my phone, whining until I pulled up photos of the three of us, scrolling through memories while he licked the screen affectionately, leaving smudges that I wiped away with a smile. Afternoons became adventure time. Max would drag his leash to the door, insisting on longer walks that detoured to my husband's office building downtown, sitting stubbornly outside until I coaxed him away with promises of treats, his reluctance palpable in every slow step back home. Once inside, the collecting escalated, now including books from the shelf that my husband was reading, stacking them precariously in his nest, where he'd lie atop them like a guardian dragon on treasure, growling softly if I approached too quickly. I couldn't stop him. Attempts to reorganize led to him retrieving the items one by one, his determination outmatching my patience every time. Dinner time evolved too, with Max refusing plain kibble, instead begging for scraps from my plate in a way he never did before, mimicking the spoiled behavior my husband playfully encouraged, making me laugh through the loneliness as I shared bites of chicken or pasta. Nights brought the crescendo, howls interspersed with playful nips at my heels, urging me to chase him around the house in impromptu games that echoed the raucous he enjoyed with his dad, leaving me breathless and giggling despite the exhaustion. Researching online, I delved into canine behavior experts' blogs, learning about displacement activities in dogs under stress, how they channel anxiety into rituals that provide comfort, and it clicked Max's this was his coping mechanism, a bridge over the gap of separation. I experimented with aromatherapy diffusers emitting calming lavender scents, but Max ignored them, preferring the natural aroma of his collected hoard. Video recordings captured the absurdity, like the time he balanced a hat on his head while parading around, or when he helped with laundry by pulling husband's clothes from the dryer straight to his pile. Calls with my husband via video chat turned into family reunions, Max barking excitedly at the screen, tail wagging furiously, only to sulk when the call ended, curling up in defeat. Friends suggested obedience classes, but with the trip's end in sight, I opted to ride it out, embracing the chaos as a testament to our bond. In quiet moments, I'd sit with him, sharing stories aloud as if he understood, his head in my lap providing silent support, reminding me that while I can't stop his behaviors, they're born of love, pure and unwavering. Character count, approximately 4,000, as the business trip stretched into its fourth phase. Max's repertoire expanded in unexpected ways, turning everyday routines into elaborate performances that highlighted his intelligence and emotional depth, leaving me in awe and utterly unable to intervene effectively. Mornings now included him fetching the newspaper from the porch, a task my husband taught him, dropping it at my feet with a proud bark, then waiting expectantly for praise that I lavished generously, his eyes sparkling with accomplishment. Breakfast followed, where he'd sit by the fridge, pawing at the door until I retrieved yogurt, his favorite shared treat, lapping it up from a spoon I held, creating messy but memorable moments. Walks became exploratory missions. Max led us to new paths in the neighborhood, sniffing out